Right now, while you're watching this video, the birds outside your window are preparing for something you've probably never seen before. Not sleep, not rest. Something much more calculated than that. Tonight, every bird in your yard will go through a series of survival decisions so precise, so refined by millions of years of evolution, that even scientists who study birds for a living are still discovering new things about them. And the strange part is, almost all of it happens while you're asleep. You see them every day. The sparrow sitting on the fence, the tiny bird darting through the branches, the dove perched quietly on the power line. You think you know these creatures, but the truth is, you're only seeing a small fraction of their lives. Because the moment the light disappears, their world changes completely. What looks peaceful from the outside is actually a night filled with silent calculations, hidden survival strategies, and decisions that have to be made perfectly before morning comes. And once you discover what really happens above your house every single night, you'll never look at the birds outside your window the same way again. Welcome to Wings Explained. I'm glad you're here, because tonight we're stepping into a side of the natural world most people never notice: the hidden nighttime lives of the birds outside your window. From the moment dusk settles in to the very first sounds of morning, an entire world of survival, instinct, and silent intelligence unfolds above your house every single night. And make sure you stay until the end, because later in this video, we're going to uncover something that happens in the sky directly over your home during certain nights of the year. Something so strange and beautiful that once you know it's there, you'll never look at the night sky the same way again. Let's begin. Number 1. Where your birds go when darkness falls. Here's the first thing to understand. Birds do not simply disappear at dark. They vanish to somewhere specific. Take the Song Sparrow, an assuming little bird, brown, streaky, easy to overlook. But as evening comes, a song sparrow doesn't just land on any branch. It selects a roosting site with the same deliberateness a person might choose where to sleep in a dangerous neighborhood. Low in the shrub, away from the outer edge, where foliage forms a physical barrier in 3 directions. It memorizes that spot. It returns to it. If you have a dense shrub bed along a fence line, a song sparrow may have been sleeping in the same exact fork of branches every single night this winter. You've walked past it in the dark dozens of times without knowing. Morning doves operate different. They tend to roost in the canopy, higher up, where a large evergreen's inner structure creates a windbreak. On a cold night, a group of doves will sometimes cluster along the same branch, pressed together so their body heat forms a shared envelope of warmth. From below, in the dark, they look like lumps of bark, which is precisely the point. The dark-eyed Junco, that small, slate-gray bird that shows up at your feeders in winter, does something remarkable. When the temperature drops, Juncos will scrape out a shallow depression in the ground under a dense shrub, low enough that the snow or the shrub itself acts as insulation, and they roost there. Beneath the surface, out of the wind, invisible. The yard goes dark. To you, it empties. To the birds, it's where the night shift begins. Number 2, the biology of surviving the night. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside a small bird's body on a cold night, because it is genuinely astonishing. The golden-crowned kinglet is one of the smallest birds that overwinters in North America. It weighs about 5 grams. That is roughly the weight of a single sheet of paper. On a winter night, at 10 below zero, that bird needs to keep its core temperature near 104 degrees Fahrenheit to stay alive. How? The kinglet uses a combination of methods that, taken together, are one of the more extraordinary physiological performances in the animal kingdom. First, it fluffs its feathers to create an insulating air layer, essentially wearing a down jacket assembled from its own body. Second, it may enter a mild state of torpor, slowing its metabolic rate to reduce the energy it burns overnight. Third, And this is the part that researchers find most fascinating. Golden-crowned kinglets have been observed roosting in clusters of 3 to 12 birds in cavities or dense conifer branches, their bodies in direct contact, sharing heat in a way that multiplies each bird's individual insulating ability. A single kinglet trying to survive a severe cold night alone is operating at the edge of what's physiologically possible. The same bird in a group of 6 has dramatically better odds. This is not socializing. This is thermodynamics. These birds are doing math with their bodies. There's another layer to this. The ruby-crowned kinglet, a close relative, has been found in winter roosts, tucked into cavities with 2 to 4 other birds, all juveniles, all unrelated, sharing a space smaller than your fist. By morning, they separate entirely. No conflict, no bonding, just a temporary agreement between strangers that they're all more likely to see sunrise together. Number 3. How your birds sleep without truly sleeping. Sleep for a bird is not the same as sleep for you. When you sleep, you are genuinely offline. Decades of neuroscience confirm that a sleeping human is dramatically less responsive to the environment than an awake one. Birds solve this problem differently. A substantial number of bird species practice what sleep researchers call unihemispheric slow wave sleep, a mouthful of a term for something elegant. One half of the brain enters a sleep state. The other stays awake. The eye connected to the sleeping hemisphere closes. The eye connected to the waking hemisphere stays open. The bird rests half of its brain while actively surveilling its environment with the other half. Periodically, the halves switch. The white-crowned sparrow has been studied in sleep labs where researchers could measure exactly which hemisphere was active. These birds adjusted their degree of unihemispheric sleep based on perceived threat level. In safer environments, they slept more fully. When exposed to predator cues, they dramatically increased the proportion of time spent in single hemisphere vigilance. They were, in effect, choosing how awake to be based on the information they had about their surroundings. Your yard at midnight may look completely still to you, but a tufted titmouse in the cavity of the dead oak at the back fence is running a continuous predator scan with one eye while resting the other side of its brain. The house finch, tucked into the dense arbor vitae by the garage, is doing the same. The yard is operating a surveillance network you didn't know existed, and the sensors are small, feathered, and half asleep. Number 4. The e-birds you didn't know move at night. Not every bird in your yard is waiting out the dark. Some are using it. The American woodcock is one of the stranger backyard visitors. If you're lucky enough to live near a wet meadow or woodland edge, it spends the day almost completely motionless, relying on its extraordinary camouflage, brown, dead leaf patterned, to stay invisible. But at night, it moves. It probes soft soil for earthworms, its bill capable of flexing at the tip to grab prey underground. An animal that barely moves by day becomes an active forager by night. More surprising to most people, the cedar waxwing, which you may have watched stripping berries from a crabapple or serviceberry in broad daylight, will sometimes continue feeding after dark if artificial light permits or a bright moon illuminates a fruiting tree. Waxwings feeding by moonlight is not unheard of. And then there are the birds responding to something in the soundscape of your yard that you may have noticed without understanding. The night heron. Black-crowned night herons are named for exactly what they do. They are the herons that show up after dark, working the edges of ponds and slow streams, utterly silent, standing motionless until prey moves within reach. If you live near water and have ever heard a sharp, rough bark of a coal after dark, something between a crow and a strangled yap, that was almost certainly a black-crowned night heron flying over. Your yard's nighttime soundscape carries information. Learning to read it tells you far more about what's happening out there than any daylight walk. Number 5. what is crossing the sky above your house tonight. And now for the part that reshapes how you think about the birds you see every morning. Twice a year, April through early June, and again August through October, the sky above your neighborhood is not the same sky you're used to. On peak migration nights, the airspace over a single county in the eastern United States can contain millions of birds in transit. Not thousands. Millions moving north in spring, south in fall, traveling at altitudes of 500 to 3,000 feet, mostly invisible, almost completely silent, except for the thin contact calls they use to maintain loose flock cohesion in the dark. These are not unfamiliar birds. The Baltimore Oriole, that will appear at your hummingbird feeder or orange slice in May, that bird almost certainly crossed the Gulf of Mexico not long ago. Non-stop, a flight of roughly 600 miles over open water, no landmarks, navigating by the stars, by polarized light at sunset, and by the Earth's magnetic field, burning stored fat at a rate that would be equivalent to a 150-pound person running consecutive marathons. The Blackpoll warbler, a small bird less noticeable than most in your yard, undertakes one of the longest overwater migrations of any songbird in the Western Hemisphere. From the northeastern US and Canada to South America, it fattens to nearly double its normal weight before departure. Then it flies. The tool that made the scale of this visible to the public is Birdcast, a collaboration between the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and other research institutions. Using the network of National Weather Service Doppler radars, Birdcast can detect migrating birds in real time and generate maps showing the density and direction of migration on any given night. On a peak night, those radar maps show something that looks like a vast weather front moving across the continent. It is not weather, it is life. You can look at Birdcast tonight, free, on your phone. It will show you whether your house is under a migration corridor right now. And if it is, there is something almost unbearably beautiful about standing in your yard after dark on a quiet night in May, hearing nothing, looking at an apparently empty sky, and knowing that somewhere above you, at an altitude you can't see, millions of birds are passing over, birds that will be at your feeders in the morning. Birds returning from months in places you've never been, following routes they inherited from ancestors that crossed this same sky 10,000 years ago. The yard you see at dusk, when the feeder's empty and the last bird disappears into the hedge, that yard is not asleep. The Song Sparrow is in the shrub bed. The kinglets are clustered together in the spruce. The Titmouse has one eye open, running its scan. And above the roof line, in the dark, birds you'll see at your feeders tomorrow are crossing the sky right now, navigating a continent by light and magnetism and inherited memory. This is what your birds do when you're not watching. Now you know. Drop a comment below. Have you ever noticed birds singing at an odd hour or caught movement in the yard after dark that surprised you? I read every comment, and I'll see you in the next one.